Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Page Turners Plus. The last time you saw us, we were reflecting on I Am Alive, novel by Kettly Mars. And as promised in that episode, today we have Kettly Mars and we'll be interviewing her about her novel I Am Alive. Thank you for joining us, Kettly.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's our pleasure. So, to begin with the narration of the novel, each chapter is narrated in the voice of a different character and occasionally an omniscient narrator, but you don't ever tell your readers who we are about to hear from. Why?
Yes, I've been writing for quite a while, for over 30 years consistently, and I cannot stop marveling at the act of creating itself, which is something that I don't understand, and I hope I never understand it. I'm sure that each writer you've interviewed has his theory about it, how it comes, how we decide to do things, or how we not decide to do things, and things, impose themselves on us. What is the minute, the second where we write the first word, the first paragraph of a project? I'll never know. This is a moment that we flee, that is right after us, obsessing us. And how do we do it? Some writers have very intricate plans. Some take notes for months before starting their projects. Some just throw themselves, like myself, into the project, not knowing where I'm going. So I don't know why I decided on one omniscient narrator and so many voices around. I may say that there are things that are unconscious while you are in the writing process, and they guide you even if you don't realize it. And as I was on a project where the main character is a schizophrenic, well, difficult word. Um, I guess it was there on my mind because I did not put a name at the start of each chapter. I did not put a number at the start of each chapter. And I just let myself go from one to the other in a not orderly way. Uh, and I ask the reader to make the effort to follow me because I know I have heard some critics and commentaries, and my readers sometimes say that at the beginning it's been hard to follow the story without those guidelines that are names and chapters numbers. But that's how it came. Actually, the end result is not how I started because I only had one narrator, and at a certain point it was difficult for me to turn all the stories together from one perspective. And as it is a story that concerns a very intimate thing that's going on inside a family, I decided to make it a choral novel, so that we can really get into the mind, the feelings, the emotions of each character, and voila, follow them, in this sense. So I think that the end result imposed itself on me, although at the beginning, I had to look for the right way to tell that story.
Thank you very much, Francine.
That's actually one of the things we talked about when we discussed the novel, the fact that we had to put some effort in to figure out who was narrating. I think we all agreed that we quite enjoyed having to do that. Um, let's move on to the probably the central part of the novel. According to you, in the preface of the novel, you say that you wrote it to break the silence around mental illness. But it seemed to us that the story was about more than just Alexandre's illness and his family's reaction to it. We got to know the entire family and perhaps Marilyn in particular very well. Was that intentional on your part?
Mm. Yes, this is a very central question in the matter of constructing a story. because we are so many things as human beings, as souls, as memories. Of course, there is that one sparkle that tells us, I need to write a story about this. This is too much, or this is something that so many people could benefit from entering. But how much I am going to say? How many other stories am I going to weave into that center story? This is a balance that is very difficult, I think, to find. And that's why you need people to read your story for you, to critique your story, to give you suggestions, because the the idea sometimes is to say too much, or sometimes you don't say enough, and you get lost in the focus of the main points that are going to constitute the unity of your story, of your storyline, the universe of the story. So, for instance, I sent a novel that I wrote maybe a couple of years ago to a few editors, and the feedback I received is that there were too many stories in the story. They felt that I lost my propos, my story, because I wanted to say too much. Of course, I was I was mortified. Always happened this way. But when you sit on it, you think about it, you realize that to a certain percentage, you're right. And this novel is still there. I have to work for it. I need a 2-3 months free to work back on it. So I couldn't talk only about schizophrenia and mental illness. This guy is not alone. He has a family, and this mental illness fact has had repercussion on the whole family over a lifetime. So that's why I decided, well, I'm going to say such thing and such thing from one character to the other, as long as it keeps the chorus together, and it makes sense, and I do not go too far away from my story. But it's like you have the skeleton and you're putting flesh on it, but you don't want an obese character. You want something that's convincing. So yeah, I think that that's the reason that I constructed the story like this, trying to find that balance that accompanies the main storyline.
I want to continue along that line of mental illness because in the preface to the novel, you mentioned that when a loved one suffers from mental illness, we become a little afraid of them. Yet in the novel, only Ecclesiast has an abiding fear of Alex Orange. Why did you present the story in that way?
Mhm. Mm. I could say that Ecclesiastes is an outsider. She's a workforce that the people have hired to help take care of Ecclesiastes. And the first sign of their being afraid of him is that they wouldn't touch him. They wouldn't go close to him. Nobody wants to take care of him, feed him, clean him, sleep with him. That's one first sign, even if it's not spoken. And so Ecclesiastes is an outsider, and he comes with all his, prejudices about crazy people. But the others are also, I think, frightened by the fact that they have that sibling who is crazy. How much is this going to affect them, even though they're adults? But you can become crazy anytime in your life. They also have a way of living that relationship for instance, I said that Gabrielle, in her teenagers, she was, the party goer. She was always out, uh, seeing her friends, going to picnics, and it was a way for her to flee that situation that was becoming more and more heavy in the house. Like Gregoire was going with his boyfriends, riding his bikes, going on, randonnées and stuff like that. Marilyn was tough in her, um, how to say it, jealousy, tension with her father and with that brother. Each one had a way of living that mental illness, the effect that it had on them. Although Ecclesiastes is the one that, he goes straight to it. I cannot stand it. I cannot live with that guy. He's a weirdo. He frightens me. He gives me nightmares, and I don't want any more of it. But the others, it's blood. It's their brother. It is their histories. It's their memory. They have to find a way to accommodate with that situation, which could not be as as brutal and as straightforward as Ecclesiastes put it, I think.
So the novel begins with the events of 12 Janvier, and although it's a significant event for the Bernier family, it's not catastrophic. Why did you choose to present the events of 12 Janvier this way in the novel?
Yes, the story is not about the earthquake. The earthquake is like the tipping point. I think that's how they say. I had already written a novel which called Aux frontières de la soif earlier, a few years before. And it happened that le 12 janvier, the earthquake, uh, provoked a chain of reactions in this family. But it could have been, I don't know, a fire, it could have been a car accident, it could have been anything. But it happened that it was the earthquake. And of course, at the level of consequences that this particular event had on the country, it's no small thing. So, but really, the story starts about a year after the earthquake. So the situation is very, very bad, but it is not, acute as it was at the time it happened. So my purpose was more to make people live the daily lives of people after a year into that earthquake. So I no, really, I did not want going into the social, economic, and all other consequences of that earthquake per se, but it's there in the background and is the reason that story is going on in that family. So yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah.
And then I suppose the counter to you not focusing it on the family was that 12 Janvier was not catastrophic for the Berniers, but it was for people like Nora. Did you want her presence to balance the story represented in the novel of 12 Janvier? Janvier?
Mhm. I would say first that the 2 Janvier was catastrophic for anyone living in Haiti at the time. Anyone. Whether your house did not fall on you, whether you didn't lose any family, but you must have lost a friend, a connaissance, someone you work with, someone you saw on the street, an ex neighbor, whatever. And the sight of what was there after the few days and weeks and months after cannot leave you cold. It's just not possible. Yes, it's not catastrophic, but it is. I remember I went to a funeral of a guy that I used to know, um, maybe 3 weeks after the earthquake. And it was the first time I really cried because I understood at this moment what happened. He was a guy in his late 40s, early 50s at the time, and he was visiting the Ministry of Justice on some business. He's an intellectual, and the building fell on him, and they could they just could not extract him under the rubbles before he passed away. And all this time, his son was near to him, even though he was outside. They could communicate somehow. So he lived minute after minute, second after second, his father's death. And this one example is, enough to make you understand the extent of the catastrophe. So it's only then that I really had a chance to cry at the funeral of this friend. And I always regret that the leaders of the country did not give the people an occasion to grieve together, to have that catharsis that we needed as a people to mourn our losses. And this is just to say that it was catastrophic for everyone, and everyone helped how they could, whoever was it, whether it's not your friend, not your social class, whatever, whoever we could help, we have to do it. So, but Nora, I made Nora come into the story to bring the outside world into that Fleur de Chêne community, that family, because I wanted to show different experiences. I wanted to show different social classes and how they mingle, how they see one another. And that was my purpose in bringing Nora into the story. And because, well, the Berniers are who they are, and they really don't have the same experience as she does. And I made her a really sharp woman, sharp young woman with a purpose in life, getting out of misery, getting out of poverty any way that she can. So getting into that family was, a lifeline for her. And she took it with all that she is. And that's mostly the purpose of that character into the story.
So, well, we're going to continue on talking a little bit about Nora because I think she kind of intrigued us all. And you showed us tension between her and Livia, who was the helper of Eliane. And it showed up as a tension between people of different generations, but they were from the same socioeconomic class. It seems that Livia accepts the status quo and sees Nora as something of a tramp and an upstart. Anna Suffet, Gregor's and Sophia's housekeeper, has more personal ambition than Livia, and like Nora, thinks Livia lives in another century. Does the novel suggest that there is a shift in contemporary Haitian society, that young working class people are more willing to make bold choices to escape poverty and other forms of deprivation?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Um, since the years 1960s, at the onset of the Duvalier dictatorship, there's been a huge migration from the countryside towards the main big cities of Haiti, like Port-au-Prince, Cap-Haïtien, Jacmel, Les Cayes, Jérémie. And one of the reasons, bizarrely, is that when the dictator was having his celebrations on the Champ de Mars, the big national place, public place, they went to the countryside and took loads of peasants and people and brought them there to cheer on the leader, and and film and make believe that the whole country, thousands and millions of people were with him. But once that was done, they just let them go. Those people didn't have a right back home, so most of them stayed in Port-au-Prince, in the capital, and that's how the shanty towns, the ghettos started, because they had nowhere to go. They just went on, any open land, and settle themselves. And other people, of course, make it a business of, cutting lands in little pieces and renting to them. That's how it started. And with the decline of the economy and the political situation, being a peasant has always been seen as something degrading, unfortunately, in Haiti, because most of the time they are illiterate. They have never traveled. They don't know modern commodities. So myself, until up a certain age, I always see people from the rural cities, rural town, as less than myself, and how young I was. But we are the consequences that they hit you later, because a country cannot live with such a gap between the social classes living on the same territory. So yes, Nora is a representative of that class, of that second or third or fourth generation of people from the countryside who went came to live to the capital, and who has lost all the traditions, all the culture, or see them as foreign to them, and they have to survive the way that they can, and they are colorized, but not very much. Some are very smart and find ways to make it, but the majority of these people, they live in poverty or under the threshold of poverty. But they are influenced, of course, by modernity that reach them, as they do for any other class of people in the country. They know, television. They know now the cell phone. The influence from North America. Miami is 1 hour and a half away from us, and we have all those secondhand clothing coming. Everything is changing, and slowly the country has lost his somehow most of his essence, most of his culture and traditions. And these young people, they're fighting to make it, and they cannot understand someone like Livia, who is attached to an old bourgeois family, and who has no other ambition in her life. This is, old time. She's an old timer, and they don't have much in common. And Livia herself sees her as someone who is trouble, who is coming to take advantage of those people. And that's what she sees in her, with no respect, the way she dresses up, the way she speaks, her boldness in watching the men of the family, and all these things that, are repulsive to her. So they have no common grounds. So they represent really the tension between two generations, two ways of seeing things, and ambitions are different. So I think that, yes, Nora is what we have actually as a generation of young Haitian who are fighting their way for a better life, who are leaving the country in mass today, and who are rethinking the relationship between the different groups of the society.
Kettly, I just want to do a bit of a follow up there, um, because during our reflections, I actually put forward that a possible reason for Livia's reaction might have been jealousy, that she was jealous of Nora, and I suggested that the jealousy was rooted in the fact that she might have thought that she was part of the family, even though she was hired as the helper. That over time she sort of saw them as siblings. This was her family, so she was protecting her family. Do you have any thoughts on that? If it could possibly be
Absolutely.
that? Yeah.
Yes, this is a good point. Livia also saw her as a rival who could, her job is at stake. Maybe you never know, something could happen. Then Nora could bring someone else and, do some voodoo and, captivate that family. She was genuinely concerned about her taking advantage of them also. So there was jealousy also, definitely, in that tension between the two women. And of course, Livia is an old timer, and this is not the way she sees a young person, her behavior, her upbringing. But yes, she resents her for many reasons that have to do with their two different experiences in life. But it's definitely can be seen as a sort of jealousy also. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Bernier family. There are definitely tensions between them, but we didn't get the impression that they were by any means a dysfunctional family. There's guaranteed drama in dysfunction. So we wonder why you weren't interested in presenting this family as dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm. Well, I chose subtle tension over drama, consciously or not. But of course, the reader does not know the story behind the story. And Alexandre family is my family. This is something very close to me. So I presented them more or less the way they are because Alexandre is my ex. I divorced his brother, but he's my ex brother-in-law. And I've lived with that family for over 20 years, so I know them and I see how they live with one another. And it's definitely not a dysfunctional family. Of course, I could have put drama, but to me, the drama was enough. Just the situation they were living, having to take that man back with them, among them, after 40 years of separation, and for the reason we know. Um, and I, of course, as I said, the reader doesn't know the backstory, but the father of Alexander, in reality, was the first psychiatrist in Haiti. He's the first doctor who became a psychiatrist. And what an irony or a turn of fate that his firstborn was mentally ill. So this is drama enough for me in that family, something that they had to deal with all their life. So I did not find the need to put any more conflict, more than necessary, because they had, yes, their own conflict to deal with, but the situation itself was rather enough for us to live, and we needed to pull together to face it, because it's just not a matter of being practical and finding a place for him to stay and finding help to care for him, but finding peace within ourselves also, in in the midst of all the emotions of all the that family was going through at the time. So yes, I think that, yeah, dysfunctional was not necessary for me at the time. Yes.
Ketley, I just want to pick up there again. In the foreword of the novel, you said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that when you tell stories about families, they're either hurt, or if the reception of the book is good, then they're quite happy about it. I'm paraphrasing here. So my question is sort of twofold. What was the family's reaction to this novel, and what was the wider society's reaction to this book about mental illness?
Well, before starting the project, or maybe at the onset of the writing of the project, I talked to them and told them my project, what I had in mind, and I felt that I owe it to them to, inform them And if I had received a negative reaction, I think that I would have stopped it, because these are people that I care for, that I love, that have always been good for me, and that I respect a lot. But I think that I owe it to them also to finally speak about that situation, because, as I said all along the novel, this is a subject that was hardly talked about, openly. They seldom talked about Alexandre. They seldom, exchange feelings or memories or pain about him. It was, a way of dealing with it. One cannot have an opinion or a judgment on the matter. You have to be in the situation maybe to understand, and you cannot know what your reaction would be. So yes, I informed them that I had the project, and that I felt that it was a sign that Alexandre was coming back, and that finally somehow that he would be reunited with with them. And they accepted. They were a little bit reluctant, but they knew that I was doing this not looking for sensationalism, just because I said that it's a way of making peace with this part of the family history, and showing affection, also showing respect, because well, and also to me it was a way of passing the fact that in Haiti, mental illness is a difficult thing because of the weakness of the health system. You, as a kid, I would always see lots of crazy people, going around in the streets in rags, and not clean, not taken care of. And people would abuse them or mock them. This is something very difficult. So it was an occasion also for me to say that this is just a disease like any other disease, but as it transforms someone, it works in the head, and that person slowly becomes a stranger. It makes it more difficult to accept, but still, that person is not responsible, and is still your father, your mother, your brother, your cousin, whoever, and that uh, we have to accept it, and be kind with that reality. And the book was maybe published a year. After a year, I received a messenger message on Facebook from a woman, I don't know, in an Arabic country. And she was writing to say thank you for the book, that she was so touched by reading it. She did not elaborate on her own situation, but she said that the book really brought her a lot of peace. And those are the satisfactions that are the most important to a writer, that you have made a work that is useful. This is more rewarding than a literary prize or whatever you can have. To know that you have shared with someone, with some people, with humanity, you have been, touch people that you would not imagine, and bring some solace in their life, or something. I think that this is very important and really rewarding and great. I'm very grateful for that.
A really powerful answer, Francine.
Thank you so much for that, Kettly. Um, One of the things you address in the novel is sex and sexuality. And both Sophia and Gabrielle seem to consider sex their wifely duty. Alexandre's useful exploration of his own body caused turmoil in the family, and then there was a dramatic relationship between Marilyn and Nora. Did you consciously want to explore attitudes towards sex and sexuality as you wrote the novel?
Yes, actually, that's what I've been doing all my writing life. I remember I started writing poetry first, like many other writers in Haiti and around the world. We start with the need to express ourselves, on the spot with poetry, because poetry is immediate. It talks to you. You have to say something right there. And for some reason that I did not decide, I started writing very intimate poetry, very sensual poetry. And the reception was mitigated because I'm a woman, I'm a mother. Uh, it makes people uneasy that I'm talking about, intimacy, sexuality, sex pleasure, and dreaming and stuff like that. I'm supposed to be a more proper person with proper interests. But it was not that I was trying to provoke or to enter the literary world in Haiti. It's just that that was my experience. That it came from my readings. It came from the movies I saw when I was young, and all that makes you who you are. And I started reading, taking interest in reading from my mom, who was a great reader, and who passed me her books with no censorship. We would discuss the books afterwards if necessary, but I was a very, how would I say that, precoce reader. Um, and I think that all these reading, they made me the writer I am. And when I started, it came naturally that I was in this field of writing, but never have I given, how do I say that? Have I wrote about sexuality just to be sensational? It's just that it's part of our lives. From the day we are born until the day we leave this earth, sexuality is an important part of our lives, and we all know that. And it's like eating, it's like working, paying your bills. This brings satisfaction. This, when it's not working, you are, not okay. And this is a way of expressing a side of emotions towards someone else that is dear and close and intimate to you. And there is so much deviation on sexuality, also a perversion in that. So this is a world that I think that we creators, artists, will never stop exploring. There will always be a bias, a way, a point of view from the human experience talking about sexuality. So yes, and it comes naturally to me. This is not something I decide. And again, I want to say that I will never stop wonder the act of creating itself, because it's, you may have a spark for a project, an idea, but all that is flowing out of it along the days and weeks and months, it's, well, it's like a miracle to me. I don't know where it's coming from. And that's what I was fascinated as a young kid, a teenage, from reading a book. And I said, but where does that come from? Someone is taking me there, reading his book of 200 and 300 pages, but where is coming from? And when I started writing, I thought that after writing one book, I would be done. There would not be anything to say. Little did I know that the more you write, the more you extend that capacity of writing, and it becomes a second nature. So yes, I decided to talk about sexuality for the simple reason that it is present in our lives, and it's a fascinating exploration, and no more, no less than any other facet of our lives.
All right. So we probably have time for one more question. So this is not an overtly political novel, but even the Berniers, who are insulated from many of the difficulties that less privileged Haitians cannot escape, have to bow and scrape before a despotic ruler when Alexandre becomes involved in political activism. Why was it important to you to show this?
Well, this is a good question, and this is an aspect worth talking about, the aspect of people living under dictatorship, especially when you are not a dissident, when you are not a communist, Camoquin, how they would call them in Creole, who are overtly, opposed to politically to the regime. But all the other people, how do they survive that? On their daily basis, in their mind also. The key word is compromission. You have to make compromission. You know, you have to pretend. You have to have the good friend at the right place because you need coverage, you need protection. And I remember reading a book by a Chilean writer, Alejandro Zambra, and his novel, that's what he talks about, his novel, Ways of Coming Home. He grew as a youngster under Pinochet's dictatorship in the 1980s. And in his book, he talks about, his family, his parents, and how they had to make compromission and live under that dictatorship uh, that somehow make you become at the same time accomplices and victims. You do it to protect your family, to protect yourself, to give your kids a chance to go to school, to learn, because so many families have been, killed, have disappeared. And so compromising with the dictatorship becomes a way of life. You have to swallow your pride, swallow your convictions, because the this is too much for you. Uh, all the military, the police, everything is devoted 100% to the dictator. So there is no way out. And if you are not particularly, I don't know, a fighter, and you see that every day all those who have tried, they have perished. And not all people are dissidents, not all people are, opposants. And sometimes, and it was so easy. I remember I could be at school and the next day my little girlfriend was not there. It's just because she had disappeared with her family, or they had to flee into exile. It's something that it exists, but you try to, in a part of your head, forget about it and move on. So this is that compromission that I illustrate a little bit from the Alexander fathers, who had to, bow down to the authorities so that he could save his son. So this is a little, window that I open on a situation that is very particular.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kettly. And that brings us to the end of our program for today. What I could tell the listeners and viewers is that the next book that we reflect on would be Maurice Conde's Waiting for the Water to Rise. But before we go, we have a special reading for you by Kettly. Thank you for joining us and have a lovely day.
Alexandra is back home after 40 years of living in a mental institution. So the passage I'm going to read is what's going on in his head. He just came back and he's rediscovering his surroundings, and he's talking to himself. I can't stop pissing. It's as though my entire body is a balloon full of piss, and someone has just poked a hole in me. I run to the toilet, but sometimes I don't have enough time to unzip my fly, and I wet myself. Ecclesiastes raises his eyebrows a little when he sees the wet spots on the front of my pants. But it feels good when I piss. I feel better afterward. I let out a big sigh, my fist unclench, my neck relaxes. I know this place. Yesterday, I took a few steps toward the door and I noticed that eyes were following me. They're all spying on me. That's what they're doing. They pretend to work, but they're watching me. I'm a strange animal. I can't stop looking around for something, an image, a missing object. I know this place. My little brother is there. Eliane and Marilyn are there, but everything here feels backward. Eliane's house is inside out, and I hear a child scream. My father's name is Francis. He no longer brings me cookies. I have to look. I must find the airplane. I would know exactly where I was. The birds on the branches tell me 1,000 stories at once. The birds, they know what happened here. They know why we built up these walls and these houses behind them. They know where all these noises I hear come from. The growling that blows away in the wind and that keeps me from finding the airplane. The birds in the trees know a woman by the name of Eliane who held me by the hand. I won't go anywhere. And so what if they are afraid when I venture out the doorway? I'm looking for an image that keeps coming back. It's stuck in the shadows in the back of my mind, held a prisoner by the voices in my head. I want to step into the light, even if it splits my head in two unequal parts. The birds have stolen the light from me. I saw a woman in Gregoire's house. She waved hello. I know this place. As the wind blows through the trees, screams flutter around the foliage of the oaks.